Hey folks, my name is Toby Deutsch. I'm a graduate advisor in the School of Information Studies at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I'm the moderator for this particular program, for this particular session, I should say, for InfoCon. Folks, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for being a part of this presentation. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. I'm happy that we're getting underway. I'm going to let Maria introduce herself in a second, but she's one of the faculty members we have here at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and she's teaching a course right now to our undergraduate and graduate students on information security, disinformation, and it's been quite popular and I think quite poignant in today's climate. So I'm going to let Maria take it from here, and thanks again for joining us.
So my plan was I will talk for 45 minutes. And then I thought to leave time for the, for questions. And I will talk today about my title is A Tale of Two Wars, Two Information Wars, Russia's hybrid war on Ukraine from 2014 to 2023. It's obviously, as you understand, this is a developing study. It's a developing conflict. So I must admit the study is also in progress. I'm recording, collecting data, and we don't know how it will end. It's kind of one battle at a time, and it's the dynamic is changing, and the outcomes are not clear. So I kind of had initially. I'm looking at the first 3 months of the conflicts of the 2014 and 2023 and 2022. And my main goal is to look at the tactics, what were used, and look at the similarities and follow the patterns that were used, and obviously see what are the implications for the broader conflicts and for the broader hybrid wars, as now it's obviously becoming more relevant for the beyond Ukraine. So this is as you know, actually the war in Ukraine, and you can call it information war, you can call it hybrid war, because it was just kind of the propaganda war, but it also was conventional war in terms of invasion. Actually started for Ukraine, started in 2014 with annexation of Crimea and invasion by Russian invasion of eastern Ukraine, Donbass, the area with the coal mines, with not just coal mines, but it's also salts, and it's the area rich of resources, natural resources, and it's the area that it's closest to Russia. So that was the goal. And what we also see that the world responded very differently in 2014 and 2022. So that's what my main research question is, why did Russia's this information warfare capabilities succeeded? Russia definitely won in 2014, and it fell flat in 2022, particularly if we look at the first 3 months of the war. I do have to make a footnote that time is on Russia's benefits Russia, that we at this point, this is we're now a 19-month of the conflict. We don't know how it will end. Russia benefits from the extended conflict, and this is so we don't know at this point how it will end. But the first 3 months of the war, the results were unexpected for Russia, and that's and it's definitely the first battles and the beginning of the war. The response was unexpected, and Russia lost, even that the techniques, the tactics were the same. And this is what I wanted to look at: what were different and what why it happened this way. So what I looked at, my method was collecting data of kind of open sources. I am collecting data from the various social media sources, from the television, the Russian television, Ukrainian television, Western media sources, and comparing the kind of the point of view in from various angles. I also would say, I even don't know how to call it, because I was calling it digital ethnography, since I do talk to people, and I look. I also I study a lot, look through the Telegram, since the Telegram, this is now the main social platform, became with the war, with the conflict as it started. And Telegram is kind of like Facebook, but it has, so it's peer-to-peer, that anybody can start their channels. It's more the broadcasting. It's more designed for the news, for broadcasting messages, but it's also it's also directly for exchanging messages. So that's why for the communication and dialogues, it's right there in Telegram. So that's why you also can kind of observe how people communicate, how they interact with each other. So there are elements of digital ethnography right there too. So this is that's what I am doing to kind of looking at the both sides, tracking the coverage, how Ukraine and Russia covering the conflict, how it's covered in the West, and how it's obviously covered in on the other side in Ukraine, and including in Russian propaganda. And it's important to see how it's connected, because obviously Russian message, because this is what I'm looking how the narratives are evolving and how they are influenced, and how they are changing. And this is also interesting. So it's also kind of discourse analysis, looking at the changes of the messages, because the narrative changes depending on Western reaction. And that's so it's kind of this environment of interdependence. The Russian narratives do not exist in vacuum. They just don't broadcast. Even the messages to their internal population, they are inside audience. They are still adjusting it to the what's happening on the outside. So that's important. So again, I am focusing on the first 3 months of the offensive, of each offensive, and again tracking the coverage in the West, and exploring various channels, including Russian, Ukrainian, and Western channels. And this is what's interesting, if you compare, straight comparison, what's looking at the collective response of Western response to Russia's war against Ukraine, you can see that there are very different divergent paths between 2014 and 2022. In terms of sanctions, in 2014, sanctions were very limited on individuals and entities, but otherwise the business went as usual. There was no military aid to Ukraine. There was kind of limited diplomatic isolation of Russia, while in 2022, the sanctions are much more severe, and this is including pretty much all sectors of the Russian economy, and mainly, as you know, cutting off a financial sector from banking, Western banking, and trying to get rid of Russian energy sources. So that's which is the main source of income for Russia. So the main thing also that for Ukraine there was billions of dollars coming from the United States and from European Union in military aid, weapons, ammunition, and training. There is also expulsion of Russian diplomats from Western embassies in the United States, in many Western countries. So it's important that in sports, ban of Russian athletes, the Russian consulates are closed, Russian airlines are banned flying on Western airspaces. So it's the measures are much more severe, what we see. So this is in comparison. But when we see that this is the kind of what happened, and also let's kind of look back at the background, and what we see that in 2014. So this is from 2014 to December 2021. So that's when the conflict started, and it was kind of a slow. It was a low intensity conflict. Then it was the annexation of Crimea, but that was not with low, not many casualties, and the main campaign was, and mainly it was an information war. So this is what I will be talking about later, about how the propaganda and this whole concept of fake news and disinformation, this avalanche of disinformation started. And this is the false stories about Ukraine, revisionist history about what you. So this has started then. This that Ukraine actually doesn't exist as a as kind of identity, Ukrainian identity, that it's they all that's all the same, they all Russian people, and it's they just they pretend to be somebody else, and they need to be so it's a mistake that they pretend to be somebody different. So we also can say that it's definitely that Russia won this first information war. They won in the first 3 months, and after that, Ukraine was not prepared for this for the attacks, and the Western world was not prepared. I also want to will show later in the presentation how Western media was not prepared, and that's how the methods of Western media, just Western journalism, being the methods of being objective and always looking at the one side, another side, and this how it played benefited Russia, because when they are just making stuff up, then and also they having many more resources than Ukraine, so they produced much more information in English, and Western media just reprinting this information in their publications. So this is also there are lots of examples of that. So this so pretty much Russia won because the West continued working with Russia, the very weak sanctions, and it was very similar to what was the response to the war in Moldova. Because actually, Russia did the same what it did in 2014 to Ukraine. It's also invaded Moldova and Georgia, which is still, Russian troops are still occupying Pridnestrovia in Moldova and Abkhazia in Georgia, and it constitutes 20% of their territories, respectively. And right now, Russia occupies 20% of Ukrainian territory. So it looks like this is, and as you know, Russia is actually now pushing for the negotiations, as they call it, with new realities. So this is, so they kind of want to stop the conflict as it is now, so that they will keep the territories, but then obviously at any time they can regroup, and they can restart it at any moment. So that's because this is what they do in Moldova and in Georgia. They don't let economy rebuild. They don't because they keep the tension. But the parents, the parents of the war, that information wars, they actually follow the goals and the stages of any war, and obviously the goal of any war, it's eliminate the enemy, but the stages would be, actually it's always to start with the information influence, and this is what you see, kind of preparation of the population, and this is what you see at any stages. You can see what's the information influence, moral disarmament, and then the last stage is physical neutralization, so that the population surrenders. And so this military surrendering, when the population just accepts that they will accept the invaders, that's the last stage. And this is, I left this this image is this is the image in Bucha, when after the Bucha was liberated, and the Ukrainian tank coming back to liberate, and being greeted by one of the Ukrainian one of the local residents. So what I want to kind of right away, what I want to put right there is what's very obvious, what you see in the tactics of information war, and this is what's interesting, that all Russian information wars follow the same steps, and that's, to be honest, those are the steps that were followed in 2016 with the United States elections, and this is the same steps that followed in Ukraine, the same steps that followed in Europe with the in Spain, in Britain, with Brexit, you just name it. It's pretty much the issues, whatever the issues are now coming up, you can, and where we know now that Russia was involved, that you can always identify those steps. So what's interesting and what I am kind of trying to bring it and kind of to really to try to convey it as much as possible, that we obviously cannot stop this. This is what will be going on. But if people do realize this, that this is what's happening, I think that just realization it does trigger this critical thinking, and people will recognize those steps. And I think that will help, because at the end, this is intentions of people who are conducting those information wars. This is just one part of the war. The second and more important part is the people who are actually succumbing to this, and who are accepting, and who are becoming the attacks, who are becoming victims of those attacks, and who are not resisting those attacks. So I think this is, if we recognize and identify those, what I'm kind of right here, those 7 steps, and those 7 steps are taken from the he is Ladislav Bittman. This is the book. So he is he was high level. So he was the KGB agent. His book, KGB and the Soviet Disinformation, the Insider View. So that's published in 1983. And he is very clearly identified those 7 steps. So it's the first one is amplify, identify, and amplify existing problems. Then introduce a big lie. Then always in this big lie, you always have a truth of element, and the element of truth. And this is what makes it difficult to actually reject it completely and to refute it, because there always will be will be some truth to it. And that's what you can always say, well, this is complicated, and you can't just say that it's totally false, because there will be some so this is then number 4, you conceal your hand. So obviously you don't show who is actually doing it. Do it with so find useful idiot to push your lies, so somebody else is doing it for you. When confronted, just deny it. And as you know, I mean, I'm sure that even that if you don't kind of follow it that much, but you do know that Russia always denies what's happening. But it's also the main thing, what is definitely, I'm sure that all of you also know, that it's what's the most important step. It's just play the long game and do not expect quick results. And that's what I think the scariest step, that this is what I think that's what the winning strategy is, that the victory, don't expect victory to come quickly. So this is when kind of going back, how those 7 steps, 7 kind of tactics, how they were implemented in those information wars or disinformation wars in Ukraine. So this is what we saw in, and again, looking at in 2014, that was exceptionally successful operation that see that Russia won, in a sense that Ukrainian population kind of accepted it, that well, that it's shaped it's really changed the public opinions in Russia and Ukraine, and it's undermining Ukrainian government. And what I mean by this, that Russia did not succeeded in all Ukraine, but it targeted, so it amplified those problematic areas. Why they attacked, why they invaded this eastern part, because they knew that this is where people will be more responsive, and this is where the problems were, and this is, they had their kind of, the narratives were more pervasive, they worked there more intensively, so there were more the messages were more intense, and they saw so this is kind of the stages of preparation, so were stronger, and so that definitely worked, that this discord among Ukrainian population was stronger. And but in 2022, it's actually those techniques are even more severe, because the technology actually marched on with the deep fakes, and the war, the tactics are evolving, which I will be talking in a minute, and the war is still ongoing. And again, with the playing long game, it's still there. So with what I wanted to show, that this is the images from kind of the tactics from 2014. You see the girl, so you can compare that the tactics from 2014 were kind of crude, that mainly it was misappropriating images, that for instance, they would be showing image from a feature film and saying that this is a girl from Donbass, and that this is Ukrainian army killing babies in Donbass. You see that this is little girl sitting next, I guess, to her mother or grandmother, but when it's actually an image from a film. While in so this is image below, this burning books. This is actually image from 2022. This is what Russians are doing now on occupied territories, that they are physically killing the history. They are burning libraries, they are burning museums, and this is, so besides revising history, issuing new textbooks, they are actually trying to erase the history and just the memory of the Ukrainian history. So this information war is much more sophisticated, and I would say much more brutal. So this is what also there are always the narrative, if you would identify, there were always in 2014 there were these 5 main false narratives, and they were actually quite often repeated in Western media, that Ukraine is aggressive, that Ukrainian government is aggressive, that it actually, the West and particularly United States is creating tensions, that it's all, to be honest, from the beginning, all conflicts, it was conflicts against America, that America is creating, it was Russia against America, and then this term that it's Russophobia, that it's Western Russophobia, that the while that Ukraine is aggressive against Russia, and that's because West does not like Russians. Also, this the third narrative that Ukraine is a puppet regime. So that's always that it's while Ukraine is actually a democratic country, and they do hold democratic elections, and quite often the elections are not always produce kind of the best results in a sense, but the best results for the country and for the democracy, but it is those are elections, and this is so you cannot say that it's a puppet, that it's a regime, but kind of saying that it's a puppet of the West and a failed corrupt state. So this corruption of in Ukraine. This is it's a favorite narrative, and it's very easy. It's a good kind of good argument. Why not help? Because Ukraine is so corrupt, and obviously this kind of exaggerating and this is very important narrative, and then and that's also was that Russia is seeking peace. That's one of the narratives, and I also like this, that Russia has moral obligation to do something about security in the region. So this is kind of what turning it from on its head, that it's that Russia is actually the defender and not the aggressor, and this is. This is what, as we also, as we know, in 2014, and continuing the research internet agency, and is also by now it's known that this is how the agency, the research internet agency, this RIA, was very important in 2016 elections, presidential elections in the United States, pushing these false narratives in the United States, that it existed and it still exists. It was owned by Prigozhin, the Wagner leader, which I'm sure if you followed the events that it's presumably he's dead, but to be honest, it's not clear whether he's really dead, or because he was technically buried, but nobody saw his body, how he was buried. But it's not important. Important that it's the same players, and that's the same agency, the agency that acted in Ukraine, and Ukraine was as a testing kind of as a testing case, and this is the same techniques were tried in the rest of the world, and this is what we had. And then also we at the beginning, the Yandex. This is what the most popular Russian search engine that was initially widely used in Ukraine. Right now, it's banned. It's not used. It also was prioritizing false narratives. So that this is how it was done in. This is how it was done in 2014. In 2022, same pretty much very similar narratives and very similar tactics, how it was done. So this is what I wanted to show is how to compare those two wars. This is how in 2014, how the war, how did it look? So this is the Western journalist. So this is Mazhayev. So this is one of the. So this is taken the quote from Time magazine. This is the reprinted. That if you see that he is that he's actually a pro-Russian rebel, mild manner fighter. So kind of this showing that that he is, that he's fighting for independence, that there is no evidence sign that they are receiving material support from Russia. And this is obviously repeating those. So this is the evidence how they are just reprinting those Kremlin narratives. So this is how it's in 2014. So this is again how it was in 2014. Again, this is, I showed this image. This is another image that misappropriated, that the poor girl in Donbass, when it's actually the girl in Australia with her puppy, not really a victim in Donbass. Then very often, so the dead civilians shown in from Syria will be claimed that they are from Donbass. Also, the fact is that it will be credited that it's from a trusted source, but then when you follow to the original source, it would be either manipulated or misattributed. So this is the one that there will be element of truth, but it's manipulated. So this is another technique that you definitely have to apply critical thinking to understand this. This is the example of that was that the rabbi talking about anti-Semitism when he was talking about Crimea and not in Kiev, about the Russian occupied territories and not about Ukrainian territories. So this is the again this comparing the predictable stages of Russian hybrid war 2014 versus 2022, so that we from the, as I said, the first one we do the preparing the population. Stage 2, achieving full advantage in the information in the information space, and this is what they do. Russians, what they do in the occupied territories, that they cut off all the sources, all Ukrainian sources, and they all the information sources only in Russian. There's no mobile, no internet, Ukrainian internet, all internet routed through Russia. And it's actually, this is the same techniques that China does for their areas, for their population, their minorities, when they want to subdue their minorities. So that's kind of the same, also the same technique. And stage 3 is changing mentality of the population. So they are trying to they're persuading, they are creating the mood and changing the mood and perceptions in the population. And then so it's only stage 4 that the military phase is completed. So this, through the first 3 stages, the military is present, and the stage 4, this is when the complete victory, when it will be gone. We obviously, this is what the scary part, we don't know how it will end. For the as you know, right now, this, yeah, I mean, we don't know. That's, right now, what Russians are doing, just destroying everything, and how they can do victory and changing mood and perceptions in the population when there is nothing left, and there are no people left, and people who are left hate them. So that's how it will lead to victory. It's not clear. But now when you look at I already showed the burning books, that in comparison, the hybrid war in 2022 is actually goes deeper, and has a bit different methods. That it's now it's destroying cultural objects. It's attacking the memory and the history. And what I actually wanted to play is so this is the what was played on German television as an advertisement. So this was the advertisement for the ultra-right German party. Okay, so obviously you see that this is so first of all, this advertisement, this ad ran on television, that is presenting that it's coming from a German party, ultra right, that it's actually gaining its more support, and I think it's now up to 4% support in Germany. However, if you look, there are absolutely no German actors. It was completely funded by Russia. And obviously, if you see what it's playing on, I hope you understood that it's obviously this Haigh Zelensky. It's sensitive everywhere. It's particularly sensitive in Germany. Obviously, this is taking everything from average Germans when they already don't have much, taking leopards from poor boy when leopards are the tanks that Germany donating to Ukraine, the leopard tanks, the exaggerating the numbers, how much Germany donated to Ukraine. So this is questioning this whole what the support is, and whether you should support NATO, whether you should support Ukraine. But also you see that this is much more sophisticated, and it's really hard. You kind of really need to be an expert, and you need to look closer whether it's what it is, whether it's true or not. So the next, what I wanted to show, that the tactics in 2022 is the same as they were in 2014. So we see Jim Ferguson. So he is a known known journalist, pro-Russian journalist. So he is publishing so that's in October 2023, just last month. He is publishing this breaking. So that was on Twitter, and if you see, this is with the blue mark. I guess he paid his $8 that he is all tested and all that he is valid, and that breaking, that Ukraine is surrendering, and that the end is closing. So he has Western name. He is you look at him, you think that he is this credible source. However, if you will look down, that this is, you will see that this is actually the news that was published in April 2022 by Russian Ministry of Defense. And nobody actually confirmed it. And they know that this is false, that this is something that was staged as they did in kind of the same tactics as they did in 2014. But it's also the same tactics that this picture, the same image, was propagated at the same time in multiple in multiple channels. This is what they did before, so that this is right away. Many people see it everywhere. And also, if you see that China is helping too, that it's also showing up in Chinese. So this image that it's actually from, obviously the image showed up in April. It's also showed up in October, repeated. It was not true it was false in April 22, it's false in October 23. So it's kind of, and this is just one of thousands of examples. So this is what, but this is what kind of what we see the differences, though, that that Ukraine is different now, and Ukraine is a different society. That this is in contrast with the Russian society, that they actually and they demonstrated from the beginning of the war, and that what was surprising to many Western partners and Western experts, what they did not expect, that actually Ukraine will not surrender right away and will withstand. But that's because Ukraine actually has very strong kind of this horizontal networks, strong civil society, that they kind of stick together. And that's the so, and this is what Russians actually do not have. So the civil society kind of acts, it exists separate from the government. So it's not hierarchical, but it's horizontal. So it's really neighbors, it's friends, it's this is how people help each other. It's this is what the culture, and that's what we see. The images here is that it really comes, the initiative comes from regular people. So this is now what became iconic images, how regular people are fighting Russians. And this is with the tractor, this kind of comic story that Russian tank ran out of gas, petrol, and they went, so they stopped, they couldn't go, they went to look for for fuel. I guess it's kerosene or diesel to look to fuel the tank. Meanwhile, local farmer with his tractor. And by the way, do you see this is a Deere? This is an American tractor that he came and he pulled. He took the tank and he pulled it away. So this is how he took Russian tank without shooting anything. And obviously, you know that this is Russian because they have this Z, the letter Z in that says, you know, that those are Russians. This became a symbol. And if you see that this is special operations of Ukraine, agricultural division. So this is kind of this humorous take on it, and it became kind of this iconic image. I'll say, if you remember, I don't know whether you at the beginning too, that people were hitting the drones with the jars of tomatoes and cucumbers. They were hitting drones and hitting them. So as we're getting closer to winter, to the second winter of the war, this is, and again, as we don't know how it will be, here is the kind of the narratives. This is the images that I took from Ukrainian television, and this is kind of the live hacks. This is how the examples, how Ukrainians are staying together and how they do give each other, helping each other. So if you see, so this one says that we will win the winter together. So it's all about, the messages are all about togetherness. And if you see that we will knit this together. So they all knit it. And also this one is about that what are the tools for the heating tools. And this is so you can, the hot water bottle, you can have the warm sweater, or you can have a cat, and this is the cat. And in 2022, Russian Federation destroyed 30% of Ukrainian energy infrastructure, and it is clear that they actually they are restarting its campaign, and they are planning to continue. We're hoping that the protection, the air protection is better, but anyway, it does not. It looks so. In conclusion, since my goodness, and it's I see that it's my time. My time is running out. I just want in conclusions, what I want to say is that actually it is hard to compare two wars, but you do see that the techniques are the same, the narratives are very similar, but what we see that the audiences are different, and even that the audience might be more fractured, but it also looks like that, particularly in Ukraine, that actually the audience actually more educated, more motivated, and this is also the background that I didn't mention, that in Ukraine there was over the last 4 years there was a very strong campaign of information literacy, and the libraries played an enormously important role in the conducting those just information literacy campaigns for citizens. It was part of the K-12 education, it was part of the higher education, but it also was lots of it just for citizens to kind of how to read news, how to distinguish, just basic critical thinking skills. So there are differences. There are differences in audiences, and this is what we see. That this obviously that's played in advance for the advantage for Ukraine. But I'm kind of continuing, and I'm still even struggling how to analyze it, how to present it, and the methods. how to present it. I see the chat, so maybe I will stop the share for a second, and I will. And if we have any questions,
We're about out of time right now.
right?
Any questions? Have anything for Dr. Haigh? Something in the chat, or if you wanted to unmute a microphone, welcome to do that as well. Anyone?
You can always email me.
It looks like you've got your email there in the chat, Maria. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Well, if there's no questions out there, cognizant of everyone's time, and I know that there's some other sessions that might be going on right now. Thank you very much for coming today. Please let us know how else we can help you. If you have questions, you're looking for more information, please get in touch with us. And thanks a lot for being here. Have a great day.